This is Water Polo World, a monthly TV magazine where all the stories relevant with this wonderful sport will find their place. In our first edition, we look back on two Super Cups played this month. The men were playing in Budapest and the women in Sabadell. What has happened in the Champions League in the first two rounds, and in the end, we spoke with a true legend of the sport. Experience versus youth. Records versus desire to prove their worth. Sabadell and Padova faced off in Pool in Sabadell for the first time and for the first trophy. The European Aquatics Super Cup of 2024 is the event that kicked off the trophy hunt for the new season and for the reigning champions of the two major European club competitions. Sabadell is no stranger when it comes to these scenarios. After all, they are a frequent competitor, winning the Super Cup 4 previous times, meaning they are the record holders. The record department could get even better, as winning the Super Cup also meant they would surpass Italian club Orizzonte Catania, the current record holders when it comes to winning the European trophies 11 times. The same number Sabadell has won in the past 14 seasons. A refreshed team featuring newcomers in the likes of Laura Arts, Rita Kestre and Simone van der Kraats meant only one thing: the star-studded squad is about to get even bigger and better. Padova's first and last Super Cup experience came back in 2015. That was against Olympiakos, where the Greek side got the upper hand and took home another Super Cup. With something to prove and nothing to lose, they know how big of a challenge is in front of them. Speaking of the roster, the new season offers a mixture of experienced veterans plus the youngsters with a bright future in front of them, mostly from the Azzurri, the Italian youth national team ranks. Dominant from the start, just as expected, the first quarter had only one name written all over it, and it was Sabadell's. The Sette Rosa member, Sofia Giustini, used the second extra player advantage for the home side. One of the best players in the history of the women's water polo, Rita Kestre, doubled the lead with yet another power play before Bea Ortiz, one of the few Olympic gold medal winners within the home squad, put 3-0 on the scoreboard with the action shot goal. A full 8 minutes without a single precise solution in the attack. Not the best start from the Italian club. Giustini added another goal to her tally before the guest side found the way to put the ball past the Dutch national team goalkeeper, Laura Arts. It was Maxine Schaap, her compatriot, with a 6-metre shot. Two consecutive goals followed by the Spanish side, continuing with the Dutch theme. It was Simone van der Kraats with her first of the game, and Ona Llorado, one of the, if not the youngest players within the squad. The second Italian answer came through their newcomer, Nicole Moisu, in her debut. 6-2, but there was no sign of stopping for the hosts. A 4-0 series followed to make it 11-2 at the end of the first half. The double-digit gap kept on growing, with Irene Gonzalez taking the responsibility in the attack. Two consecutive goals at the start of the quarter got the score up to 13-2 before Schaap slipped another 6-metre shot past Arts. Llorado scored the first penalty shot of the game, while Emma Baccelli, another Azzurrina from the guest side, scored her first of the match to make it 17-5. 8 minutes left to go, and Sabadell didn't take the foot off the gas. They switched Arts for Mar Carrasco between the posts, and quite a bit of rotations were actually made. Kestre converted the counter-attack, Baccelli showed another great diagonal shot, followed by Alessia Milos' penalty shot for 18-7. Casado and Llorado got the bystander status with a third personal foul, and as the clock was ticking, with around 3 minutes and 30 seconds to go, the only goal before the big celebration was that courtesy of Bea Ortiz to end the night with the result 19-7. That marked the beginning of a celebration for yet another historic moment in the home side's history. Sabadell's players being crowned as the queens of the old continent for a 5th time.
The queens of the old continent, Astralpool, Natasio Sabadell's players.
Every season of the European Elite Water Polo competition starts with the Super Cup, a match between the Champions League and Euro Cup winners. This year, Budapest was the host, and Ferencváros and Jug were the teams hunting for the title that, since 2002, almost always finished with the Champions League winner. The only exception was in 2018, when the winner was this year's Champions League holders, Ferencváros. The Hungarians enter into this season with great hopes and as the main favourites to win another title in the Final Four that's going to be held in Malta again. Balázs Naiki has assembled a very strong squad with 8 Hungarian national team members accompanied by Serbia's best, Dusan Mandic, Agriopoulos from Greece, Italian De Sorma and Del Toro from Spain. On the other side stood Jug, the Croatian powerhouses that have won the Euro Cup last season after dropping from the Champions League. They also boast 6 players that have won a medal in the Olympic Games in Paris. Their long-standing coach, Vjeko Kobeschak, knows what is ahead of them.
Looking at this game, that Ferencváros is a strong favorite, and not only that they won the Champions League last year, I think that they are favorites to repeat this in this season also. When you see all the names, when you see the coach who is young but with so many success already in his career, it's definitely that you can put them as the main favorites to repeat the winning of the Champions League. But you never came in any game to lose. We definitely want to show our best, and that this young and team with a good prospect, with a good future, I think, bright future, is already on the line that can play with a team like Ferencváros. During this season, we have already 10-15 games, but none of these, except maybe I have said no, none of these teams were on the level of Ferencváros. So this should be the biggest test of the season, and it's already a fight for the title.
The game itself started well for the Hungarians. It was 2-0 for the Fradi after only 1 minute and 14 seconds, and 4-2 after the first quarter. Jug came back in the second quarter. They also led 5-4 after Jokovic scored his second goal. The Croats had a chance to go 2 goals up, but Vlaho Pavlic hits the bar. Ferencváros came back quickly in the third quarter. Their best player Dusan Mandic for 5-5, and soon after, Mandic again, this time with involuntary help from goalkeeper Popadic, of whom the ball rebounded over the goal line. Ferencváros was dominant in the third quarter, that they won 5-1. Jug tried to come back one more time. Javela scored for 10-7, but it wasn't enough to catch the mighty Hungarians. Another title for Ferencváros, with 2 domestic titles and a Champions League title. This was their 5th Super Cup, proving their power again. 13-9 in the end for Ferencváros.
And the 2024 European Super Cup winner is Ferencváros for the 5th time in the history of the Super Cup.
So I think it's a good start. We planned like this, and I knew it wouldn't be an easy game. So how it was the beginning of the match, we prepared for this, and we hope that at the second half we can open the match a little bit. I think it was amazing performance from our team. Congratulations to the team of you who really fought from the very first second until the last one. They gave all what they could. But I think we played really well. We controlled almost the whole match. Not the second quarter, but in the third quarter we started to dominate and we started to put our play in advantage against them. Simply through strong defense, through blocks, we build our confidence in third quarter. Then the attack also worked as well, and we expected a game like this. We knew that Team Yug is very younger team, a lot of young players who wants to prove who are swimming very well, and we knew that we cannot finish the game in the first or second quarter. So we continued, we believed in our game, what the coach said, and we played it. We were very disciplined, I think, and it gave us results. And very important trophy for the start of the season. We have 3 more trophies. We want to win them all.
As night fell on Budapest, Ferencváros was celebrating another great victory, maybe a sign of another dominance starting in European water polo. The Champions League. This year's Champions League started without one of the mainstays. The most decorated water polo club of all times, Pro Recco, pulled from the Champions League due to lack of funds. After Gabriele Volpi stopped financing the club from Liguria, they were unable to retain some of the stars, so Zelanki and Karkaris went to Olympiakos. Granados didn't even play 1 second for Pro Recco after signing from Novi Beograd. He quickly transferred to Barceloneta. After a tense summer, a new owner was found, the Brazilian industrials Bering, who have taken over, so we can expect Sandro Sugno and his team back in the Champions League soon. No changes in the competition format. 4 groups with 4 teams, the best 2 from each group advancing to the quarter-final stage. This season already gave us a couple of surprises. The former European champions Primorac Kotor almost beat Olympiakos in Piraeus in the first round. It was 12-12 after 4 quarters. The Greek champions were playing without Zelanki because of suspension, but they managed to snatch second points after penalties. Radnički Kragujevac has gone through a massive changeover, with 5 players that have won gold in Paris and are not done yet. They have already announced the arrivals of Dervic and Radnilovic next season. Both of them are now in Vasas. As strong as it is, they could not stop Ferencváros. The Hungarians bulldozed through Kragujevac, mainly thanks to a granite defence with a player down. They have only allowed Radnički 2 goals out of 14 such attempts. This is how the group tables look like after 2 rounds. In Group A, it's the Romanian chase pack of Steaua and Oradea behind Novi Beograd, one of the 3 teams with 2 wins. Ferencváros is dominant in Group B with 2 victories. Jadran is second with 5 points. 2 of them are playing in the 3rd round in Budapest. Barceloneta leads Group C with Vasas and Marseille second and 3rd. After the victory in Sabadell, Olympiakos is first with Savona second after they beat Primorac in Kotor. One of the best players that has ever put on the water polo cap in the history of the sport, the man that has won it all, the man that left his mark not only in Spain but also the rest of the world. And it all started in Brazil, where the majority of his family members were no strangers to the pool.
Yeah, it's crazy. I think everyone in Brazil, so when you say like I came from Brazil, like everyone thinks that I'm a soccer player, that I'm not a water polo player. But my father was a water polo player. And so he was always bringing me to the swimming pool. My brother was a former water polo player, so I was always in the swimming pool. And like I think it's more fun to play with the ball than just swimming. So this is why I started to play water polo. And I was in Brazil until I was 15, 16 years old. And then I moved here to Spain, following my dream to become a water polo player.
It was not an easy road. Following his dream meant switching his hometown Rio de Janeiro for Barcelona.
It was a very difficult move. On that moment I didn't feel that, but now looking back, it's It was a huge movement. I left my family, my friends. My brother was here, which helped me a lot. But it was not easy. Of course, Barcelona is one of the most beautiful and one of the best cities in the world. But I was having such a mindset to follow my dream to be a water polo professional player that it was hard, but I really didn't think about it.
From a kid with a dream to the one that's won it all. From the Champions League, Euro Cup, Super Cups, National Leagues of Spain, Italy and Croatia, as well as the Cups, the Adriatic League. But all accolades aside, there is something more important than the list of medals.
I guess much more than I thought, much more than I expected. It's a long journey. It's a long journey, and I think when I was in Brazil, I was just a kid dreaming to be able to practice this sport as a professional and dedicate myself to this sport. And then suddenly the opportunity to play with Spanish national team, the opportunity to play in Italy, to play in Croatia, and all those things give me the opportunity, I think much more than the titles, much more than achievements, the opportunity to live like amazing experience. And this is something that I will keep in my mind, I keep in my heart for all my life.
2 Brazilian clubs before the European move, thanks to which he got to play with some of the best players in the history of the sport.
I remember, as I said before, I came to Spain at 15, 16 years old, and on that moment the Italian league was the best league in the world. So I moved to Savona with 21 years old, and it was another big step in my life to play a really, really professional league. And then after came the opportunity to go to Pro Reco, which on that moment was, and it's still like the best club in the world and with the best players from every country. So it was like not just a big step in the professionality, but a big step to be in training session with the best players in the world and learn their culture, learn how they behave on training sessions. So for me, it was something that I keep my mind like I had the opportunity to play with Tamas Caixas, which was one of the most famous, one of the best players in the history, Tibor Benedek, which is again, and all other guys like Filipovic, Prelenovic, Sukno. So it was a huge, huge and beautiful experience.
From the Italian water polo stages to the Croatian one, Felipe's story moves south to the Croatian powerhouse Jug Dubrovnik.
It was another moment of my life. I was on that moment 29 years old, and I think I made the decision because I really had the dream to see how it's to be a player of Jug Dubrovnik. Jug was always well known as the city of water polo, and when I arrived there, the feeling that your sport is really recognized in the city, it was amazing. And we started to get some good results and then some titles, and then this comes like a great, great experience, just not in the swimming pool, but out of the swimming pool too. Like Dubrovnik is an amazing city, and the time that I spent with the people there, the people that loves water polo, this is for me what's a really, really dream come true.
And when it comes to the best water polo scenery he's played at, there's only one answer. The Croatian temple of water polo.
Bruges, for sure, in Dubrovnik, for sure, that feeling. Because it's a different feeling. Usually when you play water polo, people do not understand too much about water polo, but when you play in Dubrovnik, everyone knows the time to pressure the referee, and it was a beautiful moment of the water polo in the city, and the crowd was following the team. There was a huge connection, so I will stay with Bruges for sure.
Throughout his career, Felipe got to train and play under a whole lot of coaches. But the one that instilled the main principles and values of water polo takes the title of one that shaped him the most as a player.
I would say the first one from Brazil. He's Angelo Coelho. He's always, every year he came to Europe to watch my games. So I think he gave me what is more important on this sport, which is love the game, and I think be humble and understand the importance of the team. And he was really pushed me on that direction since I was a kid, and I think these values are the most important for me. the discipline too. Like he was a really hard worker, and he was always like pushing us to work. And I think this is. And then, of course, there are a lot of coaches that show me many things, but I think these values of the sport are maybe the most important thing.
A special portion of his career accomplishments is connected to the Spanish national team. Now, the long-serving captain started his national team story with Spain back in 2003. And since then, poco a poco, step by step, around 20 medals have been placed around Felipe's neck.
When I was a kid, it was a time when Spain won the '96 Olympic Games in Atlanta. So, and of course, like when I look to the Croatia, Serbia, Hungary, there was all those like big guys, and so it was difficult to identify myself with them. But the Spanish team, and of course my family came from Spain too, so I've had that feeling always of, I really identify with that national team. So when I had the opportunity to play to Spain, it was like really, I couldn't believe on that moment. And but of course, like you go, your dreams are like always like coming to another level. No? So my first beginning was just to play, and then to get a medal, and then to get the gold medal. So I think my whole career was always like moving the steps from the goals, and I think this is a little bit like how I live, how I have the experience with the Spanish national team.
But Spain is not the only national team he represented. Ratko Rudic called, and Felipe was back under Brazil's water polo cap for his third Olympic Games tournament in 2016, held at a very familiar place.
Yeah, it was not easy, and it was a huge polemic on that moment in Brazil too. But it was the only moment where water polo could be known as a sport in Brazil. And those guys came to help us, Slobodan Soto and Josip Vrlic. And I was like in the middle, trying to connect the cultures and trying to help them to adapt it to the country and to the team. And it was a great experience. It was a beautiful experience. It was Josip, it was João, and Soto. And Soto was more complicated to get a nickname, but like we were like, it was beautiful experience too.
So which game from the national team archives would get an A+ when it comes to the overall display in the pool?
Good question and difficult, but I guess the moment where Brazil won against Serbia in the Olympic Games in Rio, I think this was, of course, again, not just me, but all the team and Ratko. It was a really like thing which is unthinkable in sport, and I think it was one of the greatest achievements in my career, and it was that moment where I think people in Brazil, at least for one day, they were really talking about water polo, and they were learning about the sport and that I love, and it justified all the effort that I did to play with Brazil on that moment.
Behind the most special medal lies a background story. At least 4 or 5 finals of the Spanish side were lost on penalties. But in 2002, their luck turned around.
Yeah, for sure. The 2022, it's a long story to arrive to that moment, and to finally achieve the gold. This was, like for me, one of the most beautiful moments in my life.
After so many years of being the brains behind the team he played for, he took a step back to let the youngsters shine and fight for their spot in the domestic pools. But that doesn't mean it's his last dance. We still get to enjoy his amazing displays both in the Champions League and also when the national team duty calls. Speaking of which, hypothetically, if one day the call comes in, the opportunity arises to coach the Spanish national team, but there is also the Brazilian one calling at the same time. Which one prevails?
This is a good question, but I would say Spain, because the water polo in Spain is another. You really represent Spain in Brazil. It's a problem because after Olympics things go back, some steps back, and so I think people there they are really not representing the country. It's the sport, unfortunately, it's trying to again reach high level, and so I would say Spain.
Felipe Perrone, from a dream to reality, one medal at a time. That's it for the first edition of the Water Polo World. Next time, the story of Barceloneta. And we talk with the creators of the new rules proposal. We'll see you in a month.